So last one, last week we looked at changing the page numbers for our table of contents. All right, so our table of contents is going to follow the cover, and then when we're looking at the pages, you can see right here in our page tab, we start with 1 on the back cover. Cover is page 2. Inside front cover is 3, and then so on. All right, we do not want to be counting the back cover as page 1. Now, it's your choice. You can say, all right, I want pages 1 to start in table of contents, or I want the first page to be after the table of contents. All right. So what you do is you make that choice and you say, all right, I'm going to place my highlight page 4 right now, and I want that to start page 1. So with that selected, you're going to then go to numbering and section options, right? So you're going to right click, go down here, and then right here, you have start page numbering at 1. So what's going to happen is it's going to go page 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and so on, okay? The reason I show this last is because there are times when you do this, and if you make a change, things get funky and could end up kind of getting out of whack. So it's always been my practice to wait to the very end of a project, and then once I get close to the end, I'm not adding any more pages, I'm not moving anything around. I then go in and I trigger this page as being page 1. You can then also change the style of numbering. So right now, we're utilizing 1 space per numbering. You could have a 0 in place. So if you're going to have less than 100 pages and you want to have the first 9 to be kind of seen the same as 0, 1, 0, 2, and so on, sometimes that looks better in a table of contents, right? If you're going to have a huge, or you just like the idea of having more numbers, you have those options. You have letters, you have Roman numerals, capitalized, minuscule. So there's a lot of different options that you have going on here. All right, I'm going to choose this one, and then I'm going to hit OK. So now you can see page 1, 2, 3, and then 1 again, and then 2, 3. All right, so now on these pages, I can release the page number and delete it. Delete and delete. So now we have this starting as page 1, and then my abstract is going to start on page 2, and then keep going. All right. So that is how you change and start numbering the page numbers. All right, the last thing is when we get into our references. All right, so this follows a different set of rules. So we've been discussing, what is that, comfortable characters per line that you want to be hitting for copy text, readable text within a paragraph form. This is not the case. This is just about getting information to the viewer in a way that is organized, but more importantly, consistent. All right. So right here, we have a single column with all of that text in here. We would have to go in and remove all of this text throughout and clean everything up. But at the moment, you can see we are not seeing everything here. We have overset text that isn't being shown. Very simply, once I change this to 2, you can see now everything is here. The reason being is there is a lot of dead space that is happening in our layout. So as soon as we hit 2 or 3, you can see how much tighter all that information becomes. So don't follow the same rule. You don't want to do something, insane like this. That would end up getting really frustrating. But you definitely have something, right around here, I think, works to kind of give that information to the viewer. All right. So just remember, when you get into this list text, bullet text, even say you have text coming into your document, right? You can follow a different set of rules from what's going on in here. So it follows a different set that you don't have to think about, it has to, be a certain amount of characters per line. It does not. Okay? All right. Then the reason that we show this is when we get into here, you want to stay consistent. So I basically just copied some of this over just to kind of like focus in on this. You want to figure out some sort of type treatment that is going to be consistent. So if I decided all of the authors are going to be bold, all of the titles are going to be a certain color, then it should follow through with all of this, right? You do not have to have the HTTPS, remember, you can delete those when you're showing this. I'm gonna have these be a different color for this. That looks awful, but this is what we're doing right now. I now want to have all of these to be bold. What I can do is if I'm trying to recreate this very fast, I can use my eyedrop tool and click the top so that makes it bold. Now you can see I'm holding on to that information. So if I click this row, it will bold it for me. So I can very fast go through each of these without having to resample that top line. All right. Then once it comes time for the next one, I will just go here. I'm going to click this. Now I'll select that, and then I can change just that line all the way through. Now it would be wise to set up your styles as well. All right, so if all of these styles were set up the very first one, it's pulling in all of that style information. So this way, if I want to make that change in a style, I could very easily do that. All right, so this is what you want to do for all of this text, is simply come up with a scheme, come up with a way of a layout that is going to be consistent for the viewer to pull that information from. All right, now there could be times that you want to do a tab. So in class, I generally show tabs using something that makes sense for us that I discussed about a menu, right? So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to pull up my tabs, and then in here, you can see that when we hit a tab, you can see where that tab is going to be. All right, so that's a default tab, but I want it to be a little bit further out. All right, so you can choose to have different tabs or have them all the same. So this way they all follow the same that you're going to be doing. You do not need to hit tab and then say, oh, well, that's the default of what InDesign said, so I'm just going to stick with it. No, you control where you want that tab to be by using the tabs here, okay? Now, we talked about having the pricing, right? So in the menu, we all know that the pricing sits on the right-hand side of the menu. You do not sit there and just hit a bunch of spaces, okay? That is not going to work. What you do is you bring that last column that you want to be flush on the right-hand side, hold Shift and hit Tab. So then what you're doing is you're saying, I want this to be all the way on the other side of my document. So now you can see it's flush to the right-hand edge of this text box. This is what you want right here. You do not want to hit tabs and then have it kind of anchor and having it kind of weave in and out. You want the right-hand side of that last column to be nice and flush. All right. Now, in between, you could have a character that makes that connection. It makes it a little easier, especially if this is going to sit all the way over here. We want to make sure that the person looking at this can match up the price back to this description. So a lot of times you will see period sitting in here. Again, you do not sit there and just start hitting period until you fill in all that space. Instead, what we're going to do, we're going to pull back in our tabs. And then you have a leader, right? So we got this. We want to have a period. And then I'm going to trigger that shape. All right, so I have a period. I don't want that on that one. Let me delete this. Good. I'm going to select this one and have the period. I don't want it in between these two. I want it between these. Now, you could have any shape you want. You could also have spaces. So say you hit the period in here. I don't like how tight it is. I hit a space and I hit return, and you see how that opens all of this up. Maybe I don't want a period at all. Maybe I want a plus symbol. All right. So you can have any kind of symbol that you want inside that makes that connection from this tab all the way to the right-hand side. All right. Once you have that done, you can use your eyedrop tool to make that selection and copy it. See? Be careful with the eyedrop tool that you don't end up selecting it and then everything else gets copied over. You only want to select, especially in this case, because we have 3 columns going on, I really only want this one to be selected. All right. So then you have your leaders sitting in here that make that connection. You're good to go. All right. So that's how we did this. The next thing that we covered in class was to show unique characters that typically aren't easily accessible. So when you have your cursor and we have option, we can click on the keys and we pull up a lot of different symbols. All right. If you hit shift option, you have symbols as well. Now, oops, I do not want this. There we go. Now, if you do not want to remember what a certain key command is, we can go up to type and go to glyphs. This is going to pull up a dialog box that has every single glyph for this typeface. All right. So if you're looking for a certain Greek letter in here, you can go through, find it, and then when you have that sitting there and you start clicking away, here we go. Here we go. All right, so you double click and there it pulls up your actual glyph that you're clicking. All right. So all of these, now again, depending on the typeface you're using, is going to have different glyphs available. So not everything is always going to have it. If you ever open up a file and the typeface is in pink, or whatever the letters are in pink, that means that typeface you're using does not have that character. All right. So this is if you were trying to recreate some of those formulas, this would definitely be useful to go in and select the items that you were looking for. All right. The other thing that we had covered, unique page sizes. So let's say, let me zoom out. Let's get rid of this. Get rid of this. And let's say I wanted to have a little half fold that folds out over this. So I'm going to go up to my pages, and off of page 4, I want to have a half fold that comes over this and folds over and covers over here, right? So I'm going to pull in a new page. I'm going to push it. I put it to the wrong one. There we go. And I want this to be a half page. So with this page selected, I'm going to come down here. If I hover over, you can see edit page size. I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to go to custom. Now in here, I simply just want it to be half the size. So I'm going to hit 4 inches. I'm going to label what it is. Hit OK. And now you can see that page is now half the size. It only affects that page. So if you want something unique in your layout and you only want to affect one page, this is the way you would change it, by using this option. You do not change all the pages this way, right? If you want to change the size of the pages, you're going up to your document setup and changing the page sizes. This is only for when you're changing one individual page. So then I would have one page sitting over here and then one page sitting over here, right? Because there's a front and back to everything that we print, so it needs to be in 2 places. So that is how you would end up creating, say, a gatefold that opened up into the center spread, and then change the sizing. Because remember, if we wanted a gatefold, and I hit this, I delete, and I bring in a page sitting here, and then a page sitting here, I need to make that a little bit thinner. Because when this closes in over this and this closes in over this, I don't want the pages pinching. So you end up removing just a little bit of it, whether it's a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch, depending on the thickness of the stock that we're printing on. Then you would make those adjustments right there. All right. So that's everything that we covered on last class. There was like 2 or 3 other tools that I wanted to cover once we got into designing the cover. But other than that, that's basically everything that this project entails for a tutorial. So I hope all of these help to reference, and I hope you all have an excellent evening.